Hello, in this episode, Lex's past comes back to kill some cows, Chloe starts digging into the Kents, it turns out Parker Lewis can lose, and Clark needs a hand. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hello, I'm Lou Gonzalez. With me as always is my co-host, the great Alan Muir.
The great Alan Muir, who spent $75 on a subscription, or on a 15-month subscription to DC Universe.
Oh, it's 15? I thought it was only a year.
It's 12 months, and you get 3 extra.
Oh, okay. That actually now changes the pricing that we were just talking about. This would be the DC streaming service where you're going to see the Titans show, eventually, hopefully, sometime in some future, Young Justice Season 3, Swamp Thing,
Harley Quinn.
And then they're putting on, like, a bunch of the old Batman and Justice League stuff, right?
Yeah, like, they're putting on live-action stuff like Constantine, animated stuff like, I imagine, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, I think, like, almost all the Diniverse stuff is going on there.
Thank God I can finally catch up. And, oh, yeah, they also said that stuff's going to be in HD.
Awesome. And I'm sure they're going to put, like, all their animated movies as they come out to that. I think I'm like 1 or 2 behind. I don't remember the last one I saw in that like connected universe.
I really want to see the latest one with the Reverse Flash, the Suicide Squad one.
Yes, the only one I have. I think that's maybe the next one I haven't seen. Because the last one I saw was it like Justice League versus Titans?
Justice League versus Teen Titans.
Yeah, that might have been the last one I saw. I don't remember. I do like that because it's the Damian version of Robin. Although they have all of them are in there. But all right, well that's I guess we're talking about all this stuff because today I believe is the first day of San Diego Comic-Con 2018. I think it just started today. That's why like the Titans thing dropped and all the other stuff.
And by the time this comes out, hopefully we will know more about comics-wise Superman stuff from Bendis.
Yeah, because they dropped the Green Lantern thing. I think the other big thing we're going to get is a trailer for Aquaman.
Yeah, by the way, one of the benefits of signing up for the annual DC Universe membership, you get entered into a sweepstakes when 2 free tickets to get for the premiere of Aquaman.
Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not really super excited for that movie. Because I'm actually, like, a fan of the character, and I just watched Justice League again recently when I was on a flight. It was like, I watched Isle of Dogs, and then I was like, I need to go to sleep. What do they have on here that'll make me go to sleep? Oh, Justice League. And so I watched that, and I was just like, what? And I was like, oh, Momoa looks awesome. And then he would talk, and I'd be like, I don't like this Aquaman. I don't like bro Aquaman. He's just not entertaining to me.
Yeah, I prefer... Did you ever see that fan-made Justice League poster from about 10 years ago? Or 8 years ago?
There's probably like 50 of them, so I'm not sure exactly which one.
It was the one that had like Tom Welling as Superman, Justin Hartley as Aquaman, Doug Jones as Martian Manhunter.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just a sucker for the classic, like, original design of Aquaman.
I don't mind, like, updating design. I don't even mind, like, the 90s long hair Hokan. There's just, like, Aquaman has to be the king of a country, and, like, having him be, like, a surfer bro doesn't fit with me. Like, I'd like him to be, like, I know he didn't grow up there, but it'd be better if he was a little bit more stoic. Because in my head, of, like, the Justice League, him and Wonder Woman are separate from the rest because they're both not from America, didn't grow up here, and they're kind of leaders of sovereign nations.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that neither of them really have qualms about, like, killing people. And they kind of are, like, the hard asses when it comes to the group. Like, even though Superman's the strongest, I think Aquaman tends to be, like, the one you wouldn't want to face in a fight.
Hence, Flashpoint.
Yes, exactly. Like, well, that's why, exactly, in Flashpoint, the two of them are the ones that are destroying the world. All right, so maybe we should talk about this episode because it was actually an awesome episode.
Yeah. We finally find out about that story that was casually dropped in, what was it? What episode was it?
Looking, it was the episode Redo. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It was basically the episode where the celebrity doctor...
No, it was the episode Rogue with Phelan is when we first learned about Club Zero. That's when Phelan talks about it. And then the celebrity doctor talked about it during...
Talks about Lex's knife wound.
Yeah, and that was Hug. That was the episode, Hug, because he is helping Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like, so all those little kind of subplots finally lead into this, which is a very good episode. There's two subplots. One of them is kind of throwaway, which is the whole Lana with the Talon thing. And, it gets woven into this main plot, but it's mostly just like, oh, she's going to open the theater. And the girl that couldn't even handle being a waitress like 4 episodes ago is now going to run a movie theater / bar / hangout / whatever.
Hopefully they don't sell drugs.
Yeah. All right. So this episode does what a lot of TV shows do, what they have all the time, is they'll have a random episode start at the ending.
Yeah.
So we start with Lex is wearing a straitjacket, hanging upside down in a dark room. He calls out for help, and a person approaches him, shining a light in his face and demanding the truth. I thought the makeup job done on Lex at this point was awesome.
Yeah.
He looked like soaking wet, and I wonder how long they were holding him upside down, but he looked like he was in pain.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So then we get a flashback to Metropolis 3 years ago. So that would be 1999. Lex enters Club Zero with Max Kasich and Amanda Rothman. Max kind of like the bouncer at the bar. The bouncer like says like an ID, and Lex is like, "Oh, you must be new here." And then Max lets them in. Max is Lex's bodyguard. They check out the place, and Amanda's basically like, "Oh, so glad we could hang out." And he's like, Lex is like, "Yeah, it's much better than being on my own." And basically asks Max if there's room in the VIP. They go up there, and he orders apple martinis, and they turn around
and see Parker Lewis himself, Corin Nemec.
Yes. So he is playing Jude Royce, Amanda's fiance, who was, Lex says like a couple times as they're walking around that she's engaged. So she goes, "Oh, I thought you were in a business trip," basically like yells at him, throws her ring at him, and walks away. Jude basically claims, which I think Lex kind of admits, that like he set this whole thing up. And also I guess Jude works for him in some degree.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, they say something like, Lex says something like, "Oh, he really helped me out with like a thing, so I don't mind doing him a favor." Lex goes and Lex basically says like, "Amanda deserves better than you," something. Lex goes after Amanda. Jude follows. They start pushing each other in the club, and just like a puncher through throwing him.
Jude stabs at Lex.
Yeah, he pulls out a knife from like his back pocket and like reaches over Max and stabs Lex in like the kind of chest shoulder area, like kind of near where his heart would be, but like kind of like it's definitely on his left side, like in his chest, upper shoulder, like lower shoulder.
Yeah.
I only bring it up because basically it does nothing to Lex. Like he just kind of holds a paper towel to it later when we see like further down into this instance.
Then a gun gets pulled, and Jude gets shot. Amanda runs over to him, and opening credits.
Yep. Yeah, so in this version, Max pulls out the gun and shoots Jude in the chest.
Yeah, because there's there's many versions of the story that takes place.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 3. So we see this one, then we see like the kind of what happens after this moment that is real, in quotes. And then we see 2 other versions of who's the shooter. But we cut back to Lex hanging from the ceiling with the straitjacket. Jude calls him a liar.
Oh yeah,
he knows
he says he keeps saying, "You know, who are you?" And Jude says, "You should know you killed me." And then we hear a gunshot. Then it fades to black, or cuts to black.
Yep, and I think that this is where the intro is. To like, when they do like the "Somebody Save Me."
Yeah.
And then we come back 1 week earlier. So it's interesting that I didn't even think about that until just looking back at some notes, that this whole episode takes place over a week. So we're at Smallville High School. The teacher gives the students a 6-page biography to write about one of their fellow students. Pete's pissy because he
got the dude at the student store.
Yes. Of anybody in the class, he gets which is 50, it's 50% or 49% guys to girls. So he's the one guy stuck with another guy. Chloe has Clark and Clark has Lana because of course love triangle, blah, blah, blah.
And Chloe keeps saying, or jokes saying that it's gotta be rigged.
Yeah. Which is a funny kind of way to poke fun at themselves, like at the writing.
And we then get a hint of the love triangle.
Yep, and this is also the first part of, I guess, This paper is kind of the main subplot of this episode, which is that Chloe starts to talk to Clark, and Clark wants nothing to do with it for obvious reasons, and kind of brushes her off and leaves. So he leaves to go meet Lana at the Talon. This is where we get to see the actor who plays Jude again. He shows up to apply for a assistant manager position, and he warns Lana that anybody who gets involved with Lex turns out bad.
Yeah, the quote, I think the exact line was, everything Lex touches turns out bad.
Mm-hmm. And then Lex shows up, and Lana tells him about the encounter. She grabs the application, and shows that it says Jude on it, and that he just left. So Lex walks out and looks around and doesn't see anybody and tells Clark not to worry about it. Then he gets into his car, and the music starts playing with screams on it. Obviously, it's audio from the night at the club.
And the repeating word, killer, killer, killer.
Yep, and Lex can't figure out how to turn it off. Clark x-ray visions and sees that there's a CD player underneath Dash. So Lex rips it out and basically is like, well, we created a scene and says not to worry about it. They're just a prank, and leaves. Clark goes home, and that's where we find Chloe with his parents asking about his adoption.
And they look like they want to cover this whole thing up.
Yep, and luckily she runs out of tape, so she leaves the room so they can have like a Clark can talk to his parents basically, like one-on-one. And they basically say like, yeah, she's like digging up stuff, like she wants these answers, and there's like, it took a lot of things to get from like what's in the barn to your adoption papers. So
yeah,
Chloe...
and what was the line? I thought perseverance used to be a good thing.
Yes,
that line from Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. So then Chloe comes back in, and Clark basically tells her he's actually on his way out to go interview Lana for his paper. And then, I lost my spot. So Clark goes and meets Lana on Main Street. He asks her about the whole Talon project, and that people are treating her different. They're not treating her like a little girl who lost her parents. They're treating her like somebody
who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they're not treating her like she's gonna break at any second.
Yeah, she makes a remark about she feels like she'll finally be able to shed the princess outfit.
Yeah, the time image photo that we got in the first episode. Lex shows up kind of out of nowhere and says that the contractor told him to meet him there for some estimates. We saw him earlier when Lana was there. So they go in, they find the contractor on the floor bleeding. He says that some guy jumped him in the back, forced him in, and then cracked him in the head. And Clark notices a box on the counter. And in this box, I guess I actually skipped over a part, and we both didn't realize. So when Lex was first at the Talon, right before he goes in, the guy Max had showed up and told him that he had been seeing Jude. And Lex gives him some keys to an apartment in Metropolis and tells him to wait for him. Cut back to here, they open up the box, and it is Max's hand in the box.
Yeah, it's got the number 0, and it says 0 consequences.
Yep.
And Clark tries to probe more information off this, and Lex says, for the sake of our friendship, please stay out of this.
Yeah, he's trying to keep Lex safe. So we go to the next day at school. Chloe's trying to get some information about Clark from Pete. Pete gives her a story about when they were 6, this bully was going to attack him, and Clark, I guess, shoved him and put him through a door.
Splinters and broken hinges.
Yep. And he was like, oh, he was at least 3 times our size. And then Clark's reply is, well, we were 6, so that means he's 3 feet tall. And this is when Chloe brings up that she figured out Clark was adopted by Metropolis United Charities, and that they were
only around for 6 months. He was the only adoption that they processed.
And Clark is pissed and basically tells Chloe that like I'm not a subject, I'm supposed to be your friend. Like, I spent an hour with Lana to get my stuff done. Like, what is your problem? Like, this is my personal life.
He gets pissed off for a good reason.
Yeah,
he told her to stop, and she just refuses.
Yeah, and when he talks to her about it later, this whole thing isn't necessarily him about being, an alien. It's also about anybody who is adopted. If they wanted to know these things about their adoption, they would ask. Like, having somebody else do it and kind of throw it in your face is kind of shitty.
Yeah, he also says the line, my biological parents are either dead or they didn't want me.
Yeah, which is what probably, like, listening or watching anything else with people who are adopted, like, it's something that they think of. Like, I have friends who are adopted, and they waited till my one friend, she waited till she was, I think, in college, and then she finally, like, started, looking about it. But, like, yeah, like, it's a very, very touchy subject. And that's the one thing to remember about Superman that's interesting, is that his story is really about, like, an adoption story.
Yeah, he's the ultimate immigrant.
Yep. Which goes to the book that Eric told me to read, the Hitman book. The episode that with that character in Superman is a lot about that whole immigrant thing, which is the one that he said won the Eisner Award. So I would definitely recommend picking it up.
Yeah, there's also an issue or a story arc in Starman where they go to space, they go back in time to Krypton before its demise, and he tells Jor-El where to send Kal-El to Earth, and Clark or Kal-El or Superman basically asks him, "Why didn't you tell him to save the planet or something?" And Jack says, "Because he gives it a whole the whole time travel thing."
Yeah, because that would change everything.
Yeah, it's a real, like, the Starman omnibuses are out of print right now, but you can get the digital. All the issues are up on Comixology. Highly recommend getting that story arc. It's really good.
Yeah, Starman's an awesome character. All right, so now we've gone off on a comic book tangent. We can get back in here. So next we see Lex is in his gym at the mansion. His head of security tells him that Max never made it to the apartment after leaving him, and that Jude had no parents and no siblings, and he's also not been able to track down Amanda. During this workout, Lex gets the flashback to the nightclub where Amanda's crying over the body of Jude. This is where we see Phelan show back up from earlier in the season in the past, and this is where Lex tells him the second version of it, which is that after getting stabbed and Max checking out, like, kind of going and seeing what he's doing, Lex pulls the gun out of Max's jacket and shoots him.
I thought this was this is the scenario in which Max, not Clark, Lex grabs the gun from Max and shoots Jude.
Yeah, I think no matter what, it's always Max's gun. And basically, like, after Lex gets stabbed, Max turns to Lex to see how he's doing, and Lex goes and grabs Max's gun out of his jacket. And Max kind of tries to pull it away, but Lex ends up shooting Jude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever way it is, like, this is the one that ends with Lex being the person who killed Jude, not Max. So first is Max, the second time is Lex. Sorry. And basically tells him, so Phelan fixes everything and tells him that he can't ever see Amanda or Max basically ever again because, like, they need to keep them all very separated.
And he goes to Max and says, "Are you the one in charge of this whole thing?" And Max says, "Yeah." And Phelan says, "Well, you're gonna you're coming into a good amount of money."
Yep. I missed it, but apparently, Phelan gives Lex a card that is for someone to take care of her shoulder.
That doctor from
Pug. Alright. Then we cut back to
the gym.
Yes. And this is where Jude shows up. We see a gun to the back of Lex's head, and then they kind of start talking. The guy should be dead. Clark shows up and hears them talking to each other and kind of pushes the door in, and Lex turns around and Jude is gone. And Lex basically tells him that he was there by himself. Then we cut back to Clark is at home. He's helping his dad with the chores. Clark asks about Metropolis United Charities. Jonathan makes a reference to needing higher level of access. Well, you and me know where this goes on further. I think this is like a plot that happens about like 2 years from now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, because it doesn't get resolved until Jonathan ends up dying, I believe, right?
It gets. I think it was resolved in the second or third season because it's involved with it. Lionel gets involved.
Yeah, but I think it's like it culminates in like finding out the truth, like right around. It's one of the season finales time, like either season 2 or season 3. Whenever Jonathan kind of leaves the show.
Jonathan actually left, or that whole what happens to Jonathan happens, I think, in midway through season 5.
Sorry, I got distracted by Arlen's message.
God damn it, Arlen. Ruining our show to make his better. Yeah, it's all about they talk about it more in the upcoming season, but they don't talk about it. It gets used as leverage in season 5 when Jonathan has what happens to him. So.
Yep. All right. And then basically the next thing that happens in this episode is we cut to kind of the outside, and we find that all of the Kent cows are dead. It's like a giant field of dead cows.
Yeah, and I was gonna make a cars, like, they hate cows more than cars, but I don't want I don't want the animal people coming out after us.
Yeah, well, also, these are probably not real cows.
Yeah.
But they're there. Jonathan why
does it look like his hair is wet?
Yeah, he looked like he was, like, weeping, like, from his entire being. And Martha's upset too, and Clark is just, like, flabbergasted. Lex shows up in a giant Hummer, military style, which I don't know why. And
because it's possibly radioactive.
Yeah, they don't really say. There's just, like, black goo, if I remember correctly.
You see one tiny little bit of one tiny little circle of like a puddle of goo, and the cows are far away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a mention of the CEP again.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, which was also from Hug.
Yeah.
Yep, so they show up with hazmat suits, and they find barrels with Luthor Corp logos on them. And then basically the chief or whoever comes over and tells Lex that the CEP guy is here, like the head of them is here to talk to him. Obviously Lex turns the corner, and it's Jude, who tasers him and throws him in the back of a van and leaves. And this is where we get where the episode started, and Lex is strung up in the straitjacket and being hung from his heels above the floor. Also, Chloe was there taking pictures because, of course.
Yeah, before Lex gets abducted by Parker Lewis, he says, I didn't think it was possible to fall down further in your father's view to Clark.
Yeah, that was a good thing. And we also get, I think it's like really soon, I'm looking here. It's like right after this where Martha gives Clark the kind of talking about, like, maybe you should kind of cool it with Lex for a little while.
Yeah, because she says that she's usually the one who defends him the most to Jonathan, aside from Clark.
Mm-hmm. And then from here, Clark is in his loft. Chloe shows up to apologize for blindsiding him. She drops the whole thing to save their friendship. She gives Clark the pictures she talks about the clippings from Club Zero.
And she notices the printouts that Clark did when he was at the Torch. And she notices the headshot of Jude, and she shows the picture she took of the CEP guy, and they deduce that it's a match, or it's the same guy. And we go back to what is ultimately Club Zero after Clark finds out that it was shut down 6 months prior. Yeah,
well, so to get there though, they go back to the school. Chloe hacks the DMV to get the license of the truck from the picture that the guy was driving. Finds out he didn't work there and he was using the name John Smith. Clark calls Metropolis PD, and then he runs away. And when he gets there, the cops had taped off a building and they're pulling out a body in a body bag.
And Clark uses his X-ray vision to see that the right hand is missing.
Yep. And this is where he asks the cop about Club Zero and tells him it closed 6 months ago, but gives him the address. So yeah, and then this is where, like you were saying, where Clark goes to Club Zero, but we cut inside, and this is where the gunshot from earlier happens.
Yeah, the gunshot, and we think the person is going to shoot Clark or someone. Turns out that Parker Lewis got shot, and the unseen savior, in quotes, presses a button, and the Club Zero music and everything turns on, and you find out that it's what's the term?
He was like the foreman or the contractor.
Yeah, the contractor from the Talon, and he reveals that Amanda had committed suicide a year prior, and that she mentioned having a brother in Central City that she would visit often, who was in prison. He mentions that she was his lifeline,
Yep, and then he also, like, Lex asks, like, what about him? And he was like, oh, like, not
He
too
was
long.
he was like a parole. He was on his parole, and he wanted to earn some extra cash.
Yep, but he says, like, oh, not, like, after the funeral, I just wanted to, like, get a drink, and I ended up in some dive in Bloodhaven.
Yeah, I liked that. I loved the Central City mention. Loved the Bloodhaven reference.
Yep, and basically, and then this is where we get the third version of it, which is...
The real version.
Yes. So, again, Jude stabs Lex. After that, Max pulls his gun, but a dancer bumps into him. The gun goes flying. Amanda picks it up, and she's the one who shoots Jude as Jude is, like, lunging once again at Lex.
Yeah, this is the one that has to be because we find out that Amanda killed herself, and she wouldn't have killed herself if someone else killed Jude. But if she killed Jude, that would be weighing on her constantly, and it could drive a person insane.
Yes. So then, obviously, this is not what Roy wants to hear. So he picks up Lex and puts him up against the fish tank. He pulls the trigger, but Lex kind of turns and kind of goes over the railing with the fish tank. This is when Clark appears. He speeds, kicks a couch to where Lex is going to land, and it stops perfectly there.
Yeah,
And
I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's physically possible to kick not only to kick a couch that far, but to kick a couch that it wouldn't roll.
Well, here's the thing, like, his speed, like we see in the Flash and stuff, is so all over the place and how fast. So in this episode, he runs so fast that he kicks a couch that stops perfectly. He comes in and Lex is, like, kind of at the top of the fall. So he kicks the couch, runs up the stairs, takes out Roy, runs back down the stairs, runs out the door.
And then does a Yui.
Yeah, and basically, like, opens the door as, like, Lex is hitting the couch.
And he's like, Lex, what happened? Oh my god.
And they turn and look, and Roy is knocked out, and he's just like, okay.
Okay, CW, I'll believe you.
Yep. And then we have our last two scenes. One is, the opening of the Talon.
Yeah, Clark gives Lana something that he found in the attic or something.
Yeah, it's a picture of when the Talon, like, first opened.
Yeah, and he says it's something that she can hang up on the wall.
Yeah.
As like a good luck charm or something.
Yeah, I know he says it's from his grandfather, and
yeah,
I know we get to him eventually. So I don't remember if they ever, like,
go to the Talon. No.
Or if they ever, like, circle back to that. That would have been really, like, a great callback, but it's still cool. And then he talks to Lex, and Lex basically says to him, like, oh, have you been avoiding me? And kind of tells him that, like, I knew that my dad wouldn't do anything for her, so, like, if it minded about me, he'd do anything to save his only son. And Clark kind of was like, oh, that's, like, I knew you had some dark stuff in your past, but, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Lex's basic reply is, I would do anything to save my friends. And then our last... sorry.
No, I just want to say I really love the way Clark is with Lana, Chloe, and Pete, and comparing it to the way that Lex is to those characters.
Oh, like the difference in their relationships?
Yeah. It's just something I just noticed while watching the episode.
Yeah, and, like, because it's the only ones to really compare, in my mind, because of, like, the weird love triangle with Lana and Chloe, is, like, with Pete and Lex, like, Pete's his oldest friend, Lex is his newest friend. Pete hates Lex, which we got more of this episode.
Yeah.
But...
Well, not exactly Lex, but the Luthor family.
Yeah, yes. He hates the Luthors. But yeah, they have, like, it's an interesting thing where Clark is kind of he's definitely more childish and kiddish when he's around Pete, and even, like, Chloe. But, like, he acts a lot differently when he's just around Lex. It's more like an adult friendship, so it's kind of this interesting way of looking at, like, Lex is kind of like him trying, like, his mature role model in this compared to, like, the other adults, because Lex is kind of that in between. Like, he's young enough where he can be related to. Again,
yeah, he's
Lex
what was Jonathan? Not Jonathan. Spike, the actor who played Brainiac in season 5.
Oh yes, Spike from Buffy.
What was his character's name when he was posing as the college professor?
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, but he was the college professor.
Yeah, like, just as it's sort of, he became
Yeah, he took on a similar role, but in a kind of reversal of like he was the one with the secret and not Clark.
Yeah, and he sort of took over the Lex role because Lex was starting to go down that bad road.
Yes. Yeah, because Lex is both like a friend and a mentor to Clark at this point. But I do think it's, again, funny to remember that Lex is, what, like 21, 22?
Yeah, and Clark is supposed to be 14.
Well, at this point, he might be around like 15. We don't know when his, I don't know if there's like a birthday episode, but this, let me see, when does this, the thing I'm looking at usually has like when this is supposed to be. It came out in March 02. So this should probably be close to like, because we're more than halfway through the season. So this would be definitely the second half of the school year. So Clark is about to be 15 at best.
Yeah.
So again, it's still like a 14, 15-year-old hanging out with someone that's at least 21. Probably, I'm trying to think, he might be like 24, right? Because if he got into that club, I don't know, it's again hard to tell because unless they outright say like everybody's age, you can't really tell. But when skipping out over one of the interesting parts, which is the last kind of scene, which is Chloe in the torch office, deciding whether or not to delete or save the info she has on the adoption. What Chloe does kind of reveals who she is, I guess, at this point in her life, in this character's life. And it opens up some doors into what will happen when these characters start to learn Clark's true identity. Or, I guess, maybe not identity, but who Clark really is.
Yeah, which will be pretty soon for Pete.
Yep, which I'm glad, because he's kind of a useless character at this point. So let's go down. So overall, I thought this was an awesome episode. I do think it's hilarious that after an episode full of Whitney, what was that, like an episode ago?
Yeah, we got no Whitney.
Actually, like the last 2 episodes had a lot of Whitney, because he was in Hug a lot too.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think he was in Leech that much. He was definitely involved in it, but yeah, there was like, literally you see Whitney for like half a second at the end of this episode. But overall, it was great. We got to close out one of the subplots going through this first season. And
we have about 7 or 8 more episodes left in the season.
Yeah, we're about at the 2/3 point.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite moment or actor in this episode, and least for both?
My favorite actor was probably Rosenbaum again, because he's continually showing off his chops, that he's clearly the best guy here.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is a very Clark Lex heavy episode with Lana and Chloe kind of thrown in. I did think that Mac did a good job as Chloe. This is kind of when she kind of gets the spotlight in this show, or at least early on. She is very good with this character, which is why this character is very memorable in this series. But yeah, Rosenbaum, anytime he was in this episode, he completely dominated. And he got to do a ton with range. Even playing like young Lex was like a slightly different version of Lex than we've seen. Or I guess younger Lex is only 3 years prior.
My least valuable player, probably Corin Nemec, because I had to suffer through him on Stargate SG-1, and I had to suffer through him again on Smallville.
Yeah, this is one of the problems with like the earlier seasons, is that the villains are very mustache twirly, and both guys are that in this episode a lot. Overall, I think it was a very good episode. I didn't really have any other much things to say about it. I did see, so the conclusion of the adoption storyline is episode 7 of season 2. So that is when we get to like the full version of that story finally.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, the episode where they play on that with the woman coming in saying that Clark is her son.
Yes.
Either Clark or Lex. She's a former Fringe actress. Like she was on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she played the company that Spock formed.
Oh, Bell Industries, whatever. I only watched season 1. There's another show on my list that I have to go back and check up on.
Yeah, she was the character with the robot arm.
Okay. I just remember that the lead actress in that is on a Netflix show that's really good, Mindhunters.
Oh, really?
Yes. She doesn't come in until like the 4th episode or 3rd episode. But yeah, she's in that.
Probably gonna have to check that out then.
If you like anything to do with like serial killers and stuff like that, it is based on the book Mindhunters, about like kind of the FBI forming the first kind of criminal profiling. So it is like it is like 90% true to life. Like, you know, it's like that fictionalized reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she plays so there's like two FBI agents are the main characters. And then she is like the professor that get involved. One of the main characters is the guy, talking about Justice League. You know the guy in the beginning that Batman's fighting?
Yeah.
That guy is one of the FBI agents. He's like in everything. He's like a big character actor. So he plays like the older, grizzled FBI agent compared to the younger one. But it's a good show. I'll check it out. Season 2 is coming out some point this year. But I don't know if there's anything else left to talk about on this episode. We did get to hear that, that Phelan died. Because was he dead in the last time we saw him? I don't remember.
Yeah, he
got killed when the cops came in.
Yeah, he died in the shootout.
With Lex. Yeah. The next episode
is Nicodemus.
Yes. Is it Nicodemus or Nicodemus? It's like a Greek thing, isn't it?
I believe so.
Oh, this is the episode with the flower. Okay. This is like the kryptonite flower thing. Oh, that was the other thing. This is only the second episode of the series where our villains aren't meteor freaks. The last one being the one with Phelan.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next episode, there's like a meteor, right, flower that makes people get all emotional. So Jonathan's a dick, Lana becomes a sex bot, and Pete goes homicidal. Yeah, I think you're right. This is kind of the beginning of when like Pete figures everything out, because I think does he see Clark in this one?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of, and we get more mentions of Cadmus in this episode as well, which is awesome. But we could take a look and listen to the trailer now.
It's fresh from the frog on an all-new Smallville. Lana Lang undergoes a disturbing change. Pleasure is her only goal.
This isn't you.
I'm not scared of life, and no one can handle it.
Danger, her only desire.
You want me? Come and get me.
An all-new Smallville.
We'll catch that one next week, but is there anything else, or should we do plugs?
Yeah, let's do plugs. Okay, hopefully the comic book episodes of Phantom Zone should be happening. All I know is that one of them will be Ultimatum. I've been suffering, I'm halfway through it. I've been suffering the entire time. Looks so 90s.
Well, it's like early, it's like the same time as the show, isn't it? Like 2000?
It's 2008 and 09.
Yeah, it just looks shitty because
David Finch is like when a shitty artist.
Yeah, it's also like when they kind of gave up on the Ultimates universe.
Yeah, and I think David Finch just gave up in everything.
Yeah, because what sucks is during that same time is when my favorite alternate Marvel universe was created and lasted for like a year. The Supreme Verse. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it was kind of like the Ultimates version of the Hyperion storyline. So they basically did like an Ultimates of the Marvel's version of the DC characters, and it was goddamn awesome. It was really fucking dark.
Wait, are you
awesome.
talking about Squadron Supreme?
Yes. So they did like an Ultimate Universe version. So they're not in the Ultimates world, but it's like stylized like that. So it's a modern take on the Squadron Supreme universe.
Yeah, because a member of the Squadron showed up right in Ultimatum.
Yeah, they crossed over at one point because I think like their Wonder Woman character crossed over.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know how, but Jeff Loeb wrote this. The man who wrote all those great he wrote Superman for All Seasons. He wrote all those great Batman stories with Tim Sale. He wrote all those great Marvel color stories.
Yeah, I don't even remember what I feel like I know something, but I don't want to say it in case you haven't read up to it. But Ultimatum's like the Magneto thing, right?
Yes, when he kills when he floods...
Flips the poles, right?
Yeah, he floods New York, and he freezes most of Europe.
Yeah, he flipped like the North and South Pole. This is like right around when I stopped reading Ultimates. And I was like really annoyed at Marvel, and then I think it's like a year or two later, maybe less, that I was just like done with Marvel, period, or reading their books. Although you did get me to start reading Marvel Girl or Ms. Marvel, and that was pretty good. I can't with these crossovers, and like, I don't know.
Did you ever get to the Civil War II issue?
No, when I was reading on the Marvel Unlimited, it only included her books. And it didn't tell me which other ones like her appearances were in. So
No, it's an issue that it's mocking Civil War II.
Oh no, the only one I could think of
is a science fair.
Oh, yes, I did read that with
Miles Morales.
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
got to be my favorite issue of comics ever because of how it just laughs at the concept of events, because it's like a very small event happening at where she doesn't know that Miles is Spider-Man, and Miles doesn't know that she's Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, because he's in New York, because it's like Manhattan versus like Jersey City or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we've now started talking about Ultimatum. So I think you only mentioned the comic show plug. What else? Sorry, I'm afraid Skype's gonna die again.
You can follow me on Twitter at the Alan Mirror. You can follow me on Instagram at ComicsBoy. I recently uploaded some photos, some stills I took from Ultimatum.
Yep, I did see that, and it gave me bad memories.
Yeah, caused a friend of mine to post in the Phantom Zone Facebook group about Spider-Man Reign.
Oh god, that's even worse.
Yeah.
All right, and then I am on Twitter and Instagram at Lou A. Gonzalez. Also in the Phantom Zone group. I'm probably, by the time this comes out, we would have done, so Luke Cage would have been out, bunch of After Darks. I'm not sure when our Fantastic Four came out. The Incredibles has not dropped yet, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so maybe that'll drop at some point. We'll see. That's basically it for me. I'm Lou Gonzalez. We'll catch you on the next episode.
And I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.